Sir Jim Ratcliffe is believed to be furious with Dan Ashworth and Sir Dave Brailsford. Lenny Yoro is back in first team training. Nicky Butt believes every single United player is not playing to their full ability. The talk of the town, our new head coach Ruben Amorim demolishes Man City last night, and Viktor Gyökeres' bargain price is revealed. That's all coming up in today's rundown of the latest Manchester United news and transfer news that will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, though, please smash a like on the video and let's jump straight into it. So let's kick off with the Sir Jim story. So this came from Chris Hope from the Daily Mail, saying that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is furious with Dan Ashworth and Sir Dave Brailsford for insisting they stuck with Erik ten Hag in the summer. Now, it has been widely documented that apparently if it was down to Sir Jim, he would have preferred Tuchel in the summer. That's come from credible people like the Muppeteers and stuff. So it's not surprising that he's angry with what's kind of happened, the fact that they stuck with him and then ultimately have ended up sacking him so soon into the season. But again, I do think Sir Jim's in a position where he's doing a hands-off approach. And, you know, Sometimes you do put your faith in a manager, and there was nothing to suggest in the summer that we were going to have a bad a start to the season as we are now. And I don't actually necessarily think it's all on Ten Hag either. But apparently, according to that report, Sir Jim Ratcliffe are not happy with the fact that they kept him, because obviously look at how much it's cost United ultimately by not biting the bullet, getting rid of him in the summer. Although it still would have cost the same to get rid of Ten Hag, but we might not have had to have paid release clauses, because like I said, I think we would have ended up with Tuchel. But going off of what I've seen and heard and read and anything, I actually think that Amorim, the choice that we made, is a really smart move, and I do like everything that I'm hearing and reading about it. But we'll go through the Amorim news in a bit, but let me know what you think about that in the comments. Now, what could have been as well, so West Ham's controversial penalty, which led to Erik ten Hag being sacked by Manchester United a day later, should not have been given, according to Howard Webb, that came from the Times. So where's our apology for absolutely messing it up? And ultimately, you know, as kind of, you know, I do think it was delaying the inevitable anyway. I don't think Erik ten Hag was Ineos's, or definitely, well, according to the report before, definitely not Sir Jim Ratcliffe's man. And I do think there was an air of inevitability around Ten Hag in his future anyway, considering the games before the West Ham one. But ultimately, losing to West Ham was the kind of final nail in the coffin. And I think it's shocking that they've come out and said, yeah, it shouldn't have been a penalty anyway. No apology, no nothing. Let's just move on. VAR absolutely sucks. Get rid of it. It's an absolute disgrace. And it's ruining football, in my opinion. And there's just another kind of, you know, rubbing salt in the wounds. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't help us at all now that they admit afterwards that it shouldn't have been given as a penalty. But, you know, it is what it is. We can't change it now. But what could have been? Imagine if they didn't score that. I mean, maybe we still would have just drawn that game. So maybe they would have made the decision anyway. But, you know, just shows how fine the margins are in football. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. And let's go through some youth updates. So Lenny Yoro gets a welcome back from Manchester United team today. So there's a video online. Lenny Yoro back in full training with Manchester United. They've done the customary, they do like a gauntlet where they, you know, the players run through and they all get a bit of a slap on the head from the players as a bit of banter for new players coming in. That's happened. I've seen the video online with Lenny Yoro. So yeah, Lenny Yoro back in full training, got the kind of Manchester United welcome, a slap on the head. That's a nice one, isn't it? But yeah, really excited to see it. Obviously, I don't know. I doubt it'll be available for the next 2 games that we've got, but back in full training, building up his fitness, could potentially be involved in Ruben Amorim's first game after the international break. So massively excited to see him come back, because he is a very talented young player. Forget how young he is. He's turning 19, I think, next week. Still an unbelievable talent at that age as well. And sticking with kind of age and youth, Harry Amas has been earmarked for minutes, more likely off the bench on Thursday night. Came from Chris Wheeler, so it could finally be the moment. Obviously, I think he'll not necessarily start Harry Amas, but if the game's going well and we're winning, as we should be, or looking comfortable at least anyway, then potentially we could hopefully see Harry Amas get some game time off the bench tomorrow night, which will be exciting. And then another young player, because the one thing I think United have got right over recent years is the youth, and the under-18s and the under-21s are absolutely smashing it in some places, some cases, and we've got some really, really top young talents at that age group, obviously, that we can develop. Not all of them are going to make it, but it is really exciting, that kind of the trajectory that some of these players on. And Scanlon is another one with his impressive performances for the under-18s. James Scanlon is looking for promotion to a higher group. He is highly rated by academy staff at United. He's a two-footed, been playing off the left winger, 10 goals, 4 assists in 8 games so far this season. So another talented youngster, another name to keep an eye on, who's absolutely having an unbelievable season so far in the under-18s. Could be looking to get promoted maybe into the under-21s at some point this season, which would be, a big step. But again, it just kind of highlights that it is probably the one thing that we're getting right at United at the moment, the kind of youth development. And then another player, not necessarily through the youth, but another young player that we bought in with Sekou Kone, is set to be included in Manchester United's under-19 squad for tomorrow's UEFA Youth League game against FK Zalgiris. That came from United Frenzy. So apparently Kone is set to be, that's tonight. So that was a report that came out last night. So apparently he's going to be included in the under-19 squad for today's game. He also made his debut for the under-21 game, under-21s the other day in the defeat to Sunderland. I don't know if you saw that. And the under-21 manager said that he was brilliant when he came on. So again, another player to keep an eye on. He's penciled in as a first team player in the future. Sekou Kone, they really, really highly regard him. But obviously giving him time, as we mentioned on previous videos, giving him time to bed in, giving him time to settle, get not just at United, but also the country and everything like that as well, and taking their time with him. But he is earmarked to be a potential future first team player. They really, really highly rate Sekou Kone, and I'm here for that all day. And then obviously, I don't know if you saw the game. Let me know in the comments if you were watching last night. I watched the Sporting game. Super impressed, got to be honest. For those who don't know, Sporting beat Man City last night in the Champions League 4-1 in a really kind of, I wouldn't necessarily say it was like my observation of the game. I'm not kind of, here to talk about the tactics and the formations and stuff like that. So the one main thing that I observed in that game, and this is my opinion, let me know what you think in the comments, was that it was such a team effort by Sporting. The way they all play together and run together and fight for each other and cover each other in different positions and stuff was absolutely unbelievable to kind of see and watch. And such a stark contrast from United, who sometimes look like 11 strangers on the pitch that have never seen each other before and never played together. So that was the one kind of thing that I picked up on. Obviously, yes, they kind of did really well, specifically in the second half, rode their luck a little bit, but that was the main thing. I just kind of thought that I was wishing, and I was like, God, if only our players could put in half of the effort that those Sporting players do, then we might not be in the position that we are at the moment. But let me know what you thought about the performance in the game if you did watch it last night. So, but Amorim came out with some this was before the game, which was, I thought was quite funny. He said, if the result versus City is negative, expectations will drop. If we win, they will think the new Sir Alex Ferguson has arrived. And he was asked about that in the press conferences where he was called Sir Alex by one of the media. And he responded saying that was a joke. I'm certainly not going to read anything for 6 months. I did the same at Sport, and I'm not going to read anything or have access to anything. It's the only way I do my job and things well. So Amorim obviously acknowledged the joke, the fact that he did say beforehand, well, if I win, they're going to think the new Sir Alex Ferguson is turned up. But if I lose, then it was one of those games where if you win, everyone's going to get overhyped and overexcited by it. But if they lost, it would have been the opposite. Everyone would have been saying, "Oh, what a bad manager United have signed and stuff." So he was on a hide into nothing, I think, in that game, regardless. But I really like his press conferences. I like the style. I like his kind of, he doesn't seem to take things too seriously, but looks super professional. Speaking to my brother-in-law about Amorim this morning, the more I've researched and the more I'm kind of looking into it, the more I really, really like him. I really, really like him. I'm staying a bit reserved, though, as I've mentioned in previous videos, because I've heard things similar before in the past, and the proof is in the pudding for me. I'm at that stage now where I need to see need to see it in action myself. But everything else that I've kind of researched and looked into, he does look a really, really talented manager, and I like the way he kind of handles himself and his press conferences. Obviously, got a good. I think he's a good motivator of players as well. So all it's positive. Everything that I've researched in regards to Ruben Amorim. And this was interesting. So Statman Dave said that Amorim's Sporting beat Guardiola's Man City 4-1, but dominated the game, beating them in the following statistics. So they made more tackles, they had more big chances, they obviously scored more goals, they had higher expected goals and higher through balls as well. So it wasn't just a kind of smash and grab. They were playing really well, specifically in the second half. I thought they were really, really good. And in the second half. But again, the other thing I like about Amorim was the fact that he wasn't kind of happy about it either. When he was asked about the result, what it could mean for Man United, he said, "What I can tell you is that this doesn't mean anything particular. We don't take anything from this. We cannot transport one reality to another. Manchester United cannot play the way we play, and we will have to adapt." And then he also said, after Sunday, we'll start a new journey, a new club. We need to play these teams in a different way. We cannot defend like this. I have to improve as a coach. And I really liked that about him. So what he was effectively meaning by that is, because I think Sporting only had like 29% possession or 30% possession, I think it was, even though they won the game 4-1, what he was effectively saying was, I can't play like this at United. I need to be more in control of games. We cannot defend, i.e. sit back deep and almost, I don't necessarily think it was counter-attacking, but and I really, really like that. And again, some of the other comments he was saying were around, Pep's much better than me, but I hope to get there one day. And he was confident. Do you know what I mean? Just a really overall, I thought he conducted himself really well after the game. And that was the one thing to kind of take away, where he seems to have that kind of confidence in himself. Obviously, he's clearly a talented coach, but also carries himself really well as well. He's got that kind of charisma and stuff, which I really like. But let me know what you thought about the game. If you watched it, let me know what you think about that in the comments. Now, the other player that we've been heavily linked with bringing to United, not just now, even though it is more so now, because obviously we're getting Ruben Amorim. We've been linked with him in the past, is Viktor Gyökeres, who had an outstanding game, scored a hat-trick against City last night. So Mark Ogden had the following to say, saying Viktor Gyökeres was 23 when Brighton let him go to Coventry for just £1 million. He's now the hottest striker in Europe at 26. Dan Ashworth was the Brighton sporting director who let him go, so might be a fun conversation if Ruben Amorim mentions him. Bayern Munich have Viktor Gyökeres on their radar despite potential competition from Manchester United, so that's really interesting. And a bit of a kind of weird stat, isn't it, that Dan Ashworth had Gyökeres at Brighton, let him go for £1 million to Coventry, and then he obviously moved from Coventry to Sporting and is now one of the best strikers around. That's really, really, really mad to think that's that obviously now we've got Dan Ashworth and now we're being linked with Viktor Gyökeres. Now, in terms of other stories, so Viktor Gyökeres is in no hurry to pick his next club, but is increasingly likely that he will return to England in 2025. That came from Graham Bailey. Manchester United are rivaling Bayern Munich for Viktor Gyökeres and Benjamin Sesko. Now, that came from Christian Falk. Now, Christian Falk's very credible, really good source, specifically when it comes more to German clubs and Bayern Munich's in specifics, suggesting that obviously United might be rivaling Bayern Munich for Viktor Gyökeres. And I have said before that we do need to be careful around getting linked with a load of sporting players, because we've got obviously Ruben Amorim coming in. We are going to get linked to a lot of sporting players, but these are players that we have been linked with prior to Ruben Amorim coming in, so there is a connection there already. Whether the reality is we would, but I would 100% take Viktor Gyökeres. I think he's an outstanding striker. Would obviously suit the formation and the tactics, knows the manager as well. But whether we would have the money available to go out and do that remains to be seen. However, there's been an interesting update on that as well. So this came from Paul Hurst in the Times, so a really credible source, saying that Premier League clubs have been told that Viktor Gyökeres could be available for as little as £63 million next summer. The striker has a gentleman's agreement with Sporting to allow him to leave next summer for a lower fee than his £83 million release clause. So that is really interesting. That would be a bargain, I think, if you could get Gyökeres for around £60 million. What an unbelievable signing that would be. Potentially, obviously, any player that you sign, it always carries a little bit of a risk, but he is, the hottest property in Europe probably at the moment. I think he's the highest scoring striker in the Champions League as well. Like, Obviously, like I said, hat-trick against City last night as well. I 100% would, be all for getting Viktor Gyökeres and bringing him in, and especially if you can get him for around 60 million quid. Do you know what I mean? That would be an absolute bargain if that story is to be believed, because the kind of report is that, and we did this with Jared Braithwaite, United don't want to pay. I think they want to pay around 50, 60 million pounds per player. Like that was Omar Barada's kind of thing at Manchester City as well, where they wouldn't overpay for players, so it does fit within that within that sort of budget as well. But again, is it a bit of lazy journalism? One, because he's on fire at the moment. Two, we're getting Ruben Amorim. And three, because he's been linked with us before as well, and we're not scoring goals. So it does make sense when you kind of do that. But is it just a little bit of lazy journalism, I would say? But we need to wait and see how it develops. But I do think, personally, I would rate it if we got Gyokeres. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. And then the final story I've got for you is regarding Nicky Butt. So Nicky Butt had the following to say: every single one of Manchester United players aren't playing to the level they should be. It kills me to say it. I've been a Manchester United fan since the age of 6. You'll say that Bruno Fernandes is a fantastic player, which he is. He's a top talent. You could say one or two others, but they're not standing out. They're not performing at the highest level, and you can see it at the end of every season. How many Manchester United players are getting in the team of the year? There's none, and it's sad to say, but that's the fact. So there were quotes from Nicky Butt on Talk Sport as well, and I kind of agree as well. I do think that it's, I think a lot of the problems at United have been, I've said before, it's a mix of everything. The manager and the tactics, the players, the environment, everything like that is all kind of contributed to where we are, I think, at the moment. The environment, I think, is getting better now that we've got, obviously, Dan Ashworth and Barada and Wilcox and that in. The players still need to be the squad and the team still needs to be resolved, and obviously the manager is the one that paid the ultimate price, because, as I've mentioned, I do think he has been making mistakes and tactical issues and stuff himself. But the players do need to have a long, hard look in the mirror. And it goes back to what I was saying before. So Nicky Butt was kind of saying, look, the players are not playing to their level, whether that's because of, whatever there's no excuse actually for that. But it will be nice that if Amorim can just do one thing straight away, is to get this team playing as a team and working hard and running for each other. I think you'll see a massive improvement in that. But obviously the quality we'd need to kind of look at from there as well. But I could kind of agree with what Nicky Butt was saying there. The players just are simply not good enough and have not been good enough for a while at the club. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. Let me know what you think about all the other topics discussed in today's video, because as you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Don't forget to smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you in the next one.